Hi everyone, it's Anne-Marie from LSU CxC, and thanks for spending part of your day with me. Today we're going to talk about writing abstracts for research journals and conferences. What purpose does an abstract serve? It explains to your readers succinctly and substantively what your research is and why it's important, even if they do not have the time to attend your presentation or read your article. It enables the reader to quickly expand their body of knowledge and understand how your work fits in with the broader field. So the challenge for you becomes condensing all of the work that you've been doing over the past several months into a brief, often 250 words or less statement, and doing all of that, making every word count so that each one of those words is substantive and it's demonstrating your credibility as a researcher in the field. Now, to help you with that, we look to the rhetorical triangle, which has its roots with Aristotle and classical antiquity. We have some updated language here for you, though. So first, we're going to start by thinking about who our audience is, what motivates them, and what is the situational context in which we are connecting with them. That information, the research we do associated with that, will help us figure out how we want to frame ourselves as the communicator so that everything that we're putting forward about what we do, who we are, and how we're getting it done demonstrates to our audience that we are credible, that we are accessible, and that we belong in this world. It also helps us understand the shape and the scope of the message that we're building. And in a research context, this becomes particularly important because all the stuff that you've been working on, you're probably going to be building a couple of different products for. You might do a poster, you might do a slide deck presentation, you might do a paper, and you're most likely going to have to do an abstract in order to get any of those things done too, if you're going to be presenting it in any broader capacity, like a conference or in a peer-reviewed journal. So in this context, when we're thinking about our research abstracts, our audience is our conference committee members, those folks who are reviewing our abstracts while we're being considered to be included in those conference programs, journal editors and reviewers who are doing the same thing, reflecting on whether or not our work might be an appropriate fit for their journals. And more broadly, our audience for abstracts are researchers who are seeking specific information about our topics, our methods, and our conclusions. So those are the folks who are showing up to the conferences or reading those journal articles. Their motivation is to understand research processes and standards that you are putting forward. And they're interested in advancing the knowledge of this body of work, this field that you're working in, ethically and comprehensively, which puts a lot of pressure on you to make sure that you're demonstrating that you understand academic integrity, paying due to your predecessors, and comprehensively building out what you did, why it matters, and how others might be able to use that information. Now, for your communicator credibility, you want to make sure, like I said, you're demonstrating your knowledge of research design and processes, the pre-existing research in the field, and the abstract's role of quickly conveying substance, meaning in that abstract, you know that your job is to not waste anybody else's time and to give them exactly what they're looking for. Now, in order to build that message, right, to construct the abstract in particular, I'm going to take you through just a few tips to get you started on the work that you're going to do beyond the life of this video. First and foremost, it sounds silly, but check the guidelines. Even if we assume that because we understand our field, we understand the conventions of it, each individual conference, each individual publication might have its own very specific set of rules about the word count, the order, or the formatting, or a few specific questions they want you to answer in that abstract. So it sounds silly, but make sure that you check those guidelines before you start drafting everything out and getting it done. Similarly, and this is really important, analyze relevant examples in your field. Take the things that you have been interested in reading, the stuff that you might be even citing in your research, and take the time to break apart line by line how they built their abstracts so that you can replicate a similar approach and you can learn some of the specifics about the conventions of that particular publication in that field, or the particular conference that those materials are being presented in that field. So if you're thinking about a conference, take a look at the previous year's program and read through the abstracts from that program in order to get a sense for what kind of precedent is set. The content and the formatting is going to vary by discipline, by conference, and by publication. So doing this work will help you a lot while you are figuring out how to construct your abstract. If you don't find a particular set of guidelines, know that in general, most research abstracts include material that parallels or somehow reflects the research structure presented in the paper and or the presentation itself. So if you're building out your presentation and you know you need to include the same 5 things, those 5 things should probably appear in your abstract too. Common components to an abstract would be your intro and your background, right? Like, what's the big topic and why am I exploring this right now? The question or purpose that I'm trying to convey or that I'm trying to answer through my work. The specific methods or experiments that I'm applying. What are the results of those experiments? What are the conclusions I can draw as a result of those results? And why does this work matter in the bigger context of the field and the world, right? How can people use what I have done to advance our broader body of knowledge, make changes, keep us innovating? Why is this stuff important? I'll show you a couple of examples and we're going to start with science. And what I'm going to model here, I'm going to move through really quickly because again, I'm just showing you the how. After this video, you're going to take time for yourself. You're going to pick an article or abstract or a program abstract for a conference, and you're going to do this on your own time for something that is particularly relevant to the work that you are doing. But we'll start with science. So here's a real abstract that I'm going to break apart for you. In line 1 here, we're getting the background. We're learning about interleukin-1, which is a cytokine produced by macrophages and various other cell types that plays a major role in the immune response and in inflammatory reactions. We know immediately what this presentation is going to be about. We have a sense for where they're going and what the question and the purpose is. We're learning more about what specific experimental approaches the author is taking to figure out what's going on with IL-1 and tumor cells. We're getting a very clear sense for what the results were that came about from those experiment methods. We're building a conclusion, right? We're learning about IL-1 being known to be released during inflammatory reactions. It might not only kill tumor cells, but it might also affect normal intestinal cells. And then we end with broader implications, the stuff that the rest of the people in this field are going to find particularly useful in terms of how they're going to take this abstract's research and make use of it in future materials. Now, if you've gone through this, and I ran through this really quickly, and you're thinking, well, I am not in science, so this is kind of moot. We don't really have that same kind of structure. I can tell you, in fact, it is there. So we'll take a look at a humanities example. Same deal, real abstract. Same deal, introductory statement, letting us know the lay of the land. We're looking at 19th century Scottish touring circus. We're looking at national drama and imperial spectacle. The purpose of this research is becoming very clear. We're looking at Scottish internationalism and nation formation so that we can understand more about imperialist discourse. We're very clearly articulating what methods we used to get there, including a nice little note at the end of this sentence saying, not only am I using these methods, but I'm actually using new archives other people haven't researched before. I'm very explicitly saying, here are the 2 arguments I'm making in my research so that you can read through them. And then I'm closing by sharing not just, those were my conclusions, but here's why my conclusions matter in this broader body of work. So to recap, first and foremost, check your audience, see what information you already know they're going to be looking for, check the guidelines associated with the specific conference or the specific journal that you're interested in contributing to, analyze samples that are relevant for that audience and for your work in particular. When you're in doubt, follow those general guidelines and take the time to use those guidelines to analyze those samples. And then finally, seek feedback while you're doing your drafting. And this can come from a research mentor or advisor, or it can come through the CxC studios. You can head to cxc.lsu.edu or visit one of our 3 campus locations in the Design Building, Patrick F. Taylor Hall in Chevron, or 151 Coates Hall. And we can do one-on-one appointments for you, either in person, via Zoom, or we even do something called asynchronous stuff where you can drop off your materials. And we'll help you with your writing, your technological communication, presentations and speeches, poster and viz design, video and audio projects, data visualization, and more. So if you have questions, reach out at cxc@lsu.edu or visit our website, cxc.lsu.edu. And in the meantime, happy researching and happy writing.